I wonder if I'm live. I do wonder if I can put this over here. That's a little better. Yeah, I'd say so. Whoops. Yeah, that's a little better, I think. Okay. Get my chair. It's weird if I move the chair around just a little bit, then it's better. Hi guys, this is Alan. Brewer Nielsen. I have a stepdad and biological dad's name, so I just kind of put them together. Anyway, I have some hope with, I'm a target individual, and what that means is just much like in the 60s and the 70s, the Church Commission under Frank Church, a senator from Idaho, exposed the torture experiments done by the CIA and maybe FBI too, but it was just when the government started using, whether at that time it was DARPA, just using experimental chemistry and drugs to experimenting on unsuspecting citizens. It was bad enough when they did it to prisoners and soldiers. I mean, all of it was horrible. People that aren't aware that their government thinks so little of them, that when they're in the operating room for a broken arm, a broken leg, a pregnancy, cancer, anything, that their hospitals and doctors take that opportunity to get themselves extra money, or maybe under threat of being, well, the hospital needs this money, so you either do it or you get fired. I don't know. I really don't. But I'm sure all of it happens. That they decide you're not important enough to live a life except as a lab rat, as you shouldn't have the values and the Constitution that it affords you, the Bill of Rights. You're less than the animals that PETA tries to, at least PETA tries to protect those animals. The people, and when you find out that you are a part of these studies, and it didn't matter if it's conservative or liberal. Now it seems that Trump has woken up, President Trump has woken up, and God bless him for doing it. What they did to him, assassinating attempts, a couple of them ruining his life and his family's. But then having the right people, Robert Kennedy Jr., warning people about the NIH, and at times where you've been led to believe, and sometimes they might have done some good, but they also use some of their money, abilities, and grants and research to just research and treat people like less than animals, less than lab rats, for torture, to see what works, to use money divided by the DOD. And if you complain about it, then you're made to look paranoid. If you voice a concern to a doctor, they get money to go along with, yeah, you're nuts, or you're paranoid, delusion, have it written in your insurance, something like that. I literally at that time went 30 years with just a side pain. And nobody, I liked them. My doctors were kind and sent me to specialists and gave me pain meds. Because you just want them to fix it, and so you don't have to deal with it. Never in my mind did I thought maybe when I broke my arm after a football practice that maybe they slipped up and did something, but I didn't think I was used as an experiment. I got along with all the people. I didn't have enemies, no reason for somebody to dislike me or think anything, police or anybody, just literally no enemies. But they thought I was maybe a nice person that, he'll be tortured, and 70 times 7 will put up with it. And Don't react, don't do something, and it's like, you just want to see if any of them have this conscience thing. Any of them. I mean, when I ended up almost dead and then having to learn to walk again. And even then, nobody blew the whistle. But after I learned to walk again, and then 2 years later, that was in 2017, I remember because I was in the hospital recuperating from my injuries, and they had that shooting at the casino where that guy just went nuts. And you're sitting there wondering, I wonder if he was made to do this by some screwed up thing of the government, whether it's the Unabomber. And the Unabomber, it came out that when he was a genius. When he was in high school, he went to Harvard afterwards at 16. He was a genius, but he was part of an experiment by the government for mental stress and pressure to see how much he could take, how it would affect him. And it's even well known. But because of his retaliation and trying to warn people, that he tried to get some of that revenge and made people aware of the dangers in the future of technology. And when that one guy, Louis Mangione, whatever his name is, the guy, the young, good-looking guy, that they hate it when they say that he's young, good-looking, kind of got his revenge, I guess. He was evidently a fan of the Unabomber. And people were surprised. And it's weird because it's like, when they name these groups, you wonder if they have a little tongue in cheek. Because the algorithm is based, a lot of these insurance groups have an algorithm. And it was called United. And it's almost like they made fun of the Unabomber by writing it spelled out you and I, Ted. It's like United. It's like you and I, Ted, type of healthcare, because it's based on technology, on algorithms, whether you're accepted or not accepted or rejected. So, I mean, that could be just a weird, crazy-ass coincidence. But the deep state does have that weird sense of humor of doing things out in the open, information and disinformation, but because they have the lock and key of what the truth is, they throw little clues out there. And, of course, then by talking about it, you're made to look like a conspiracy theorist, which is a term made up by, I believe, the CIA anyway, so that they can do whatever and just be labeled a conspiracy, delusional, paranoid nut job. But after COVID, we realized our news reports were being used, and our internets were being used by the state and punishing people with an alternative viewpoint, even experts, people that were more experts with their degrees than the actual official narrative of the government. So the free speech, anyway, thankfully now we have a person that the deep state went after, and that was President Trump. Thank God he won. And he brought in wonderful people that has full knowledge of the deep state. Now, when they did a lot of this damage, there wasn't the knowledge. They just knew that the intel agencies did some bad things in the past, MK Ultra specifically, and learned about us. I can hear the V2, yapping away, planning. And how they marry the new technology to warn people, and Havana syndrome, brain-computer interface. I don't get much new subscribers, so they either hide me way back in the algorithm and to let not anybody. Anyway, my sincere hope, I have written letters to all sorts of government people. I don't know if they allow those letters to be received, even with a certified letters in mail. It's almost like if they get extra money in bidding, they're saying this person with no criminal record doesn't deserve the rights that a normal human being of the Constitution of the United States deserve. They just decided use that person as a guinea pig. even though this person had no enemies. So it's a weird thing of, and I, as a person, the one mental thing I do have is something called scrupulosity. Is this right? Is this a right thing? Is it wrong? And if it's what you think is wrong, whether it's legal or there's that aspect of legal or illegal, but is something wrong, even if it is legal, you can get away with it. And them using torture devices, which is illegal. It's always been illegal, but they're trying to act like it's not illegal. Why? Because they're doing it. So because they're doing it, therefore it must be legal. No, it's always been illegal. And taking money for torture's always been illegal, whether you have a government job or not. But they just hope you won't bring up common sense. The Fourth Amendment, illegal search and seizures, looking at your brain waves, looking at your Fifth Amendment, not being a witness against yourself if they can read your, brain patterns, thought patterns, brain mapping, synthetic telepathy, and all that. People don't realize this technology. It's not on its way. It's already here. They don't know how to make it known that they've been doing this on people for quite some time. Even though now they know. I mean, with Stephen Hawking and talking with the computer and, not being able to communicate, but his brain can. They read the mind through technology and can communicate. It's a wonderful thing. This is what Elon Musk is trying to do and make it better for people. But our military says, how can we use this for torture? I mean, I swear they could make something so wonderful, a cure for a horrible disease, and they would say, how can we use this in a bad way to make it, instead of, make it worse? Which, if it's evil people, you understand, as a deterrent against crime and cruelty. But when they do it to regular people, they literally don't think you're a person made in the image of a god or kind or deserve rights. They just know that they can get money, and by keeping it quiet. And they've done, even with the Church Commission by Senator Frank Church of Idaho in the 70s, exposing MK Ultra and Sidney Gottlieb. And a lot of these people, they were around when, whether the Cameron guy from McGill University in Canada, who was working on his patients, he became later the president, I believe, of the American Psychological Association. So if he can get that high and become the president of something like that, it's not because of his ethics. It's because they can do or know about bad, cruel things and keep his mouth quiet. And so when somebody reaches the top of the pedestal, it makes you wonder why. Are they really that great and brilliant in the science? And maybe some of them are great. Or are they equally good at crushing alternative competitors or alternative competing beliefs? Crushing. We saw that with COVID. Free speech, freedom of thought, freedom of religion or no religion. A person has a right to believe what they believe is true, or as long as they're respecting the rights of other people. And when it's our own government doing it, knowingly, not after a drunken binge, a day or two, but literally as policy, and paying people to go along with it. That is by definition the definition of the deep state, of cruelty on non-consenting human beings. It's bad enough when they do it to, it just is. Criminals, military, in the military, it's always wrong when you do it to people. But even unsuspecting civilians who haven't hurt anybody. So there's nothing to say, oh, that person deserved it. I mean, people don't deserve this. Just because somebody, again, should you? No, you shouldn't. And any group of people that gets involved in this, we should drain the swamp. And thank God, that's what President Trump and Kash Patel, the FBI, hopefully, and John Ratcliffe. And I was so glad to see that President Trump yanked the security clearance. And stopped, more importantly, because I don't know the people at the head of these groups, but I know that the groups have done so much evil, even to me. And I spent 30 years just in pain, not knowing that I was part of a plan or I didn't know that. But it makes you, obviously people on top, it's not, people know about it. It's not a couple people in your town, it's a lot of people. And they were given orders, and it's a shame. People I liked and respected. Anyway, it's just, you don't know their side of the story, but you just know they didn't stand up and defend you as a child or as a young teenager and adult when they could have and should have. And the Constitution says you're, as a human being, as an American, you're supposed to have these rights too. And they didn't. Anyway, my hope, and as in his book, I didn't buy the book, but I read sections that were online, and describing the deep state government gangsters, and that they need another church commission after Senator Frank Church in Idaho, showing the cruelty done. And thank God that, I mean, what they did to President Trump and his people, and FEMA for going after Trump supporters. And I still know that we're being used and lied to by a lot of the podcasters and a lot of whether CNN, MSNBC, and sometimes even Fox. Even though I do watch Fox more because I think but my hope is that genuinely President Trump, and he's proven it. He's already put a halt to the NIH funding. And of course, some scientists are bitching about it because that's part of where but they're already wealthy. It's like Fauci's Secret Service, but he's wealthy. He can get his own. And that whole gain of function thing. I'm not slamming for the good things they have done. It's like a person, let's say a person is a pastor, a rabbi, a mullah, something. Or a doctor. Let's say they go and cure 98, patients. But then on their day off, they go and purposely torture 2 of their patients in secret and got money for it. Those, whether it's a pastor, rabbi, mullah, shaman, or atheist, those people should still be in prison for what they did to the 2. They should. It's not an accidental drunk driving thing. It's literally knowingly going in with it. And they know it. It's literally, they should. And it's not that I myself want revenge, because I hate cruelty. Even the people that have done this to me, I don't sit back at home wishing, maybe for a second, but not even a whole day, because I know how horrible it is. And I don't like to see people, I just don't like to see them tortured. But I think punishment should be. But again, to encourage people like being sadistic and torture, maybe that's the Norwegian in me, but because our genetic bloodline did have Vikings. But also the Norwegians now are like, no, that's, cruelty. And you'd think that, well, those people will put a stop to it. But now it's going on its 40th year after I had an operation when I was 14 after a football injury. And it started with this. And then it wasn't until 30 years of this praying every day, like solve this, let them solve it, figure out what it is, just heal it. And 12 times in that, and there's been a few times since I found out what it was, 10 years ago. Well, 8 to 10 years ago, where it stopped. My side just stopped hurting. I didn't know. I thought it was an answer to prayer. And for a few hours, and then suddenly my emotions came back. There was no, you're looking back, what did I do different? What caused this to stop? Did I do something? Did I eat something? Was it, all you know is for a few hours it stopped hurting. And instantly, like a muscle that finally relaxed, the emotions just come right back. This is how you're supposed to feel all the time. And it's a realization, this is how I'm supposed to feel. My emotions, my personality, this is normal without this clench causing pain and then blocking your feelings. And then you realize about directed energy weapons. Implantable, like the crazy people in the 80s movies, the government put a chip in my, or a stimo receiver, or, different names for it, biomarkers. There's a lot of different names for these things. Directed energy devices. I don't want to say weapons, but it's really a directed energy, electricity caused by a little device, maybe no bigger than a pacemaker. I don't know how big, but just like an RFID, causing electrical current to block around your chest area to where you can't feel the same degree of emotion that you normally would. So when something happens, good or bad, the normal emotions you'd feel is blocked. You can be aware of it, but you wouldn't feel. And that's what MK Ultra and all these things have always been interested in, is taking your sense of self, your emotions, and blocking them or limiting them. And whether it's done through the brain or the heart, when you place your hand on your heart, it's over here, and that's where it feels like it's blocking, is to minimize your sense of self, your ability to feel or get strength from your emotions, whether anger or joy or sadness, to use that as motivation. They block it so that you're just, and you're the whole time for 30 years, like, what is this? Why can't I? And then I went to that rally, and I have the video on my Alan Brewer Nielsen YouTube, the Target individual rally. Now, whether the Fusion Center blocks it to where other people can't see it, I don't know. But I don't get a lot of subscribers or people. But the few that I have, like 95, they might all be Fusion Center feds, for all I know. They have a group that actually, an England group. Mark Williamson was the leader of it, protesting in London, with probably about 30 to 40 other target individuals complaining of voice-to-skull, synthetic telepathy. And then you got the 2011 and 2012 the White House bioethics group, interviewing other people complaining of the exact same. One person talking about it, two people talking about it individually, days apart. They might individually be called nutty, loony, paranoid, delusional, schizophrenic, whatever. You get a bunch of them in the same room saying the exact same thing. But how much money they're willing to waste and just throw away to experiment, to see if, not only to see what the torture does to that person, but to see the effects of the money, and to see if these people in the towns will go along with it, or if their conscience will, if their beliefs will. It's like that experience, the Stanford Milgrew experiment from Stanford. Will they torture people, continuously torture people based on authority, someone telling them to do it, or will they stand up and stop doing it? And it's pretty surprising. They'll all say one thing, but when it's really them, it's like, no. Some do. Some, thank God. There's a group, Christians Against Mind Control, target individuals. So that's wonderful to know. And it's just, there's some people that just don't, they know it's wrong and they wouldn't do it. And there's some churches that are common sense. They just don't do it. They know it's wrong and they wouldn't want it done to them. But then there's the flip side where a lot of them are also church people that go along with it because they were told to respect the government and obey the government. The Apostle Paul, submit yourself to the government, and it's like, well, and they use that language, and it's like, well, if they're doing something evil, not, just don't. Anyway, they're doing something evil. It's like, it depends on who's winning, who's in office. Republicans don't obey or respect the government when it's a Democrat, or the Democrats don't do it when it's a Republican. The idea, it's just, they have whole channels dedicated to tearing that side apart. Both sides do. And it should be. They should be freedom of speech. Anyway, I'm going off on these little tangents here. I encourage people to look it up about target individuals. Havana syndrome, when that came out there, I believe. Well, I know these instruments are real. These torture devices, directed energy weapons. I believe there's a directed energy weapons caucus made up of like senators and important people. So they know about me. They know about other people that have, under an operation or different measures, have been experimented on. And for me, it's been over 30. It's almost 40 years now. But at least in the last 10 years, for 30 years, I kept praying, because I've had, at that time, it was 7, 8, 9 times where they turned it off, and I realized. And then, it's something weird, but I thought it was prayer or something, and then I found out about Havana syndrome, the Myron May folks, Gavin Long. They try to get people to go out and act out, get revenge, get on the news, warn, which I totally understand. But then the deep state does already have a narrative. That person was delusional, crazy, something. The Nashville shooter lady, sometimes they will do the manifesto, sometimes they won't. But they will they'll either, it's like the Christmas tree bombing in Portland a few years ago. They can, intercept and, intervene, intercept, be part of it, pissing somebody off, a teenager that just broke up with their girlfriend or boyfriend, involve themselves, get people in the same religion, pump them up with hate against one group or another group of people, government or who knows what, get them to act out a violent fantasy, and then at the very end, either step in to stop it, saying, hey, you need us. I mean, they might even make a bomb or and then at the very end, stop before the person pushes it. Or if they push it and they won't connect the wires to where it won't blow up. And then say, see, you need us. They create the scenario to make the person mad, pissing, angry as hell. And either that person will end up doing something awful, and then they can just put the blame on that person, or they can intervene and say, oh, look, like the kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer. That was all fed. I would say 6 out of the 9 people were feds. That's what came out. They were trying to get 2 or 3 people so angry at her and go along with the kidnapping plot. They used 6 guys paid by the feds just to be on the news and say, Lacey, you need us. Without us, you would be kidnapped. And have been all over the news how wonderful they are. That's what they do with your money, on our money, our tax money. They try to create criminals. And even at a technical, neurological, they try to see the brains and even the hearts and the biological vital signs when a person gets worked up through these different scenarios, causing anger, sadness, and then they'll even try to block the emotions or capture. I don't know if they that's what it felt like. It feels like the emotion that you're normally supposed to feel for 30 years gets siphoned. You just know you're supposed to feel something and it's not there. And that was happening before I took the pain meds, like 14, 15. And I didn't get pain meds for another 12 years. And so normally, well, that's because of pain meds, it dulls yours. No, I mean, this was before. And it was like something was done, introduced into my body or something that caused it. And then you find out it was an electronic thing that caused a current that blocked the emotions. Now, I don't know if they siphon like gas, my emotions and try to put it in an AI, like try to create a machine with siphoned off emotions, or awareness. They try all sorts of evil shit. And it doesn't matter if it's a Catholic university, Protestant, a secular university. They should stop it. You can't be, on one hand, a creator of this technology and a warner of it. I mean, if you didn't know and it was compartmentalized and then you later found out, that's noble, because it comes on, they compartmentalize it. And then you finally realize, it's like, oh shit, I got to warn people. Some people that have done that, Robert Duncan, Tim Emerson, I don't know what his real name is. There's once, like Robert, the FBI guy that for the Russians, Robert Hansen. He had 5 different aliases. Jim, Ramon Garcia, Jim Baker. He had like 4 or 5 aliases. So I don't know what people's real names are, and I don't. Anyway, so getting money, and President Biden said this before he left, is that all these oligarchs will take away your freedoms, your democracies, and because of their richness, they will pay people off. And I've seen that. I didn't know it, but I didn't realize that my pain condition, I could have spent all these years without having any of this pain. But because somebody, when I was 14, broke my arm and was trying to get it fixed, they took that opportunity for that. And now they're using it with, whether, it's weird because even when you have it, you don't believe something this cruel could be done. I mean, there's books on it. I got books from Amazon, but I don't know if other people will be able to get the books. But I got them from Target Individuals, Amazon, lots of books that I ordered, but I don't know if it's because they gear a lot of things towards you, like a type of solipsism or, sophistry, whatever the word is. Make it about you. But I also have had real incidences of synchronicities where they're not just man-made. I mean, it could be supernatural occurrences, and it feels, not just feels, but it's like it's like they do electronic harassment, and that's not miraculous. It's just technology. But there's some things that they can't, like you turning, and then it happens right at the right answer, like turning to the right page, and some of them are just coincidental, but other things that just, but with voice to skull, synthetic telepathy, it's hard to delineate natural and supernatural, because they do have that ability. Once they can put voice to skull, synthetic, they can not just read your thought, but they can introduce through a voice, like Stephen Hawking's. It's very subliminal. So it's just, you think it might be your own thought. But then if you still aren't reacting crazy, or, but being subliminal, just barely, like you just get a thought. But if you finally are still just being good and not reacting crazy, or you're still alive and they're trying to get rid of you, they'll raise the ante up, the volume, so to speak, to where it becomes voice to skull. It becomes audible. You can genuinely, it's not, and hear the word pretty crisp, but your neighbor next to you won't be able to. But of course, if you tell this to a regular person who's never heard of this stuff, they just hear the expression, hearing voices. So, and sounds delusional. People in the government, they're trying to get me. So I don't react and they'll try, and with scrupulosity, type of OCD. OCD works a lot through guilt. They'll try to manipulate things through a sensitive conscience and try to make you feel bad. But it sounds arrogant, and I know humility is one of the things if you're religious, to be good. But I do know that I've always been kind. There's not a lot where I've been knowingly cruel or I hurt somebody. That if I knew it, I would have instantly apologized, or I just wouldn't have done it in the first place. Now, nobody likes a self-righteous bastard. Nobody does. Neither do I. But I also know I just haven't. I could have been better. I could have volunteered my time to help people or hurt, animals or other people. And I haven't done that, so I'm not as good as I would like to. I didn't, because I was always in pain too, not pain meds. Thank God for them that they offered that. But they'll try to take advantage and make you feel guilty and put in an emotion. They're trying to see what they can do. We're the testing pigeons for it. To put a thought through voice to skull or even subliminal where you won't, before that, how will you react? Can they put a thought into the heart and mind, the brain of, well, they'll say a terrorist, but I'm not a terrorist or anything. I studied for the ministry, and when I was 17, and they did this to me starting when I was 14. I was most friendliest in my class for the male in Dallas. And I was most likely to be teaching scientific creationism because I gave Christian apologetic speeches. So they were trying to use me as a testing ground. Religious, can they take a personality? And I don't know how much of it was my own religious beliefs as a person or my conscience, superego, whatever. And how much of it was also subliminal voice to skull, constantly putting like the Sermon on the Mount, which I memorized, and Matthew 10. But of course, the tough one is when you're thinking Matthew 5:29. If you look upon a woman with lust, you might as well cut your hand off. And it's like, cut your hand off, and cut it from or pluck your eye out. And it's a good thing I didn't do that, because then I'd be going, nah! I didn't obey that one, so I'm glad for that. But anyway. I hope people don't take that too literal, like St. Origen. St. Origen, wonderful, sincere human being. But he did. He, castrated himself. There are verses about that, but anyway. I kind of think the Cathars were right on that one. Not the docetism part, the ghost spiritual. But another thing about that is I don't worry about, I think I'm totally going off on the philosophy thing here, but I think free will is a real, no matter, in the last 20 years has been a lot about free will, and computers can't have free will, so because physical components and computers can't have free will, so people can't have free will. The biggest thing in the secular humanist community has been the term free will. Freedom from thought, freedom, free thinking, freedom from religion, all this stuff about freedom. And then you got Sam Harris, maybe Dennett, against free will. And a little bit reminds me of the Calvinists, who are super Calvinists, double predestination Calvinists. Anyway, I think we do, obviously, because a person can lie and then change their mind about lying, about something, about a cruel crime. Whether it fits within people's, just know it. If you do something wrong, you're not drunk or this and that, but you could have not done it. You know it. People can keep a secret about it for 20 years and then the next day decide to do something totally out of their character, out of their upbringing. They've never robbed a bank. They've never done anything, but then suddenly out of the blue do it. Their upbringing, their genetics, the fear, but they do it anyway. But then the tautology, and it always ends up in a tautology. Well, they did it, so something made them do it. Or something became the strongest impulse at the moment of whatever the moment of decision, like it's a fixed, like there's a clock on it. Sometimes people make a decision and then change their mind. We know it. Throw quantum physics and indeterminism at the jerking phantom without a cause. That's not free will. So I believe in free will. And I believe there's therefore the ghost in the machine, spirit, the soul. So I don't know about soul catchers like Rob. The guy's brilliant, but I don't know enough of the science. Certainly not any to critique it. But I know the philosophy just to say whether people like it or are comfortable with it or uncomfortable with it. We have it. We have the free will, and people have even jerking phantom limb syndrome, where it's like they know that's not free will, but when you choose to do it and lie to people, oh, look at this, it's like, that's me. But sometimes if they have tardive dyskinesia or directed energy weapons like Havana syndrome hitting their nervous system, like the brain-computer interface, it's part of the brain hitting that part and they're causing a jump or a pain. Anyway, so I'm a dualist soul. There's the soul, the spirit, and that's why we have free will, because we're not boiled down to our brain and nervous system. But I'm a teleologist in that sense. I think those things are necessary. The brain's necessary for some of our memories, and we don't know what it'd be like to not have these things. So the body and brain, nervous system are wonderful, but we're guinea pigs. So they use us to see how they can use it in a bad way to hurt innocent people, our government. And when it's embarrassing, then blame it on Russia, blame it on China, blame it on. And thank God that President Trump, and he's chosen the right people to demand transparency. Take away their clearance, stop the grants, and let's, even JFK's assassination. Just thank God somebody with the courage to not listen to the bullshitters anymore and quit trying to cover them because they'll be embarrassed. Somebody that stands up even for little normal people. It's not that he's trying to, but it was just so evil that we need to be able to have a life of our own. Not taken away, it's just too much. 30, 40 years, 10 years, 5 years is too much. Because they wouldn't want it done to them, but because they were born with rich, or their parents were rich, or they had connections, and it's like, so thankfully for the TI community, Target Justice and PAX, and Frank, there's DJ Chris, there's a bunch of people. And we know sometimes that perps and feds infiltrate a lot of this stuff, but we know that as TIs, we don't know how many there are TIs out there. But we know that some of us are real. Some TIs, we're just real. We go through this. We have this weird, shitty stuff happen to us. And I'm just glad that there's somebody to talk to about it. Now, some people I might talk to might end up, unbeknownst, might be feds pretending to be TIs. I don't doubt that. It's like January 6th, all pretending to be protesters, but a lot of them were feds pretending to be, and then trying to get other Trump people in trouble. That's what the FBI has done. CIA, the feds have been paid to do this, and even the cops. Some were stopping the people, and some were opening and showing them the way. Come on in. Yeah, come on in. I'll show you around. It's like the guy with the antler horns. Just walking them around, showing them around, and it's just like the deep state in action. They're told what to do, and they follow it. And it's information and disinformation. And we could all fall for it. I know I could. I don't think I have. But I know I've researched so much of it, even the books and the Tesla technology. It's hard to say what is real technology that works, what isn't real. They do this with the UFO stuff. Even the kidnapping of Gretchen Whitmer, that attempt, the Christmas tree bombing. I won't even go into the Trade Center stuff. But hopefully President Trump will put an end to it. And for the first time, maybe people will actually have to pay for it. It's not, I don't want torture, but they need to pay for it. And even if it means that I don't get $1, I would rather, if there was money, it all go to helping other people in torture, or people that are on the streets, homeless. They shouldn't be that way. Anyway, I gotta go check something. So I'm just hoping Kash Patel and President Trump and Pam Bondi and John, the CIA. I just wrote John. I just hoping all of them. I just wrote a letter to. I just forgot how to pronounce the last name. So anyway, other TIs, and there's a lot to look forward to now. So that's what I'm thankful for. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys later. Okay. If anybody does watch it, I know it's a Fusion Center watch most of it, but I'll talk to you later. Bye. Anyway.